Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, it's the morning after the night before. Old saying. And there was a really sweet gathering of devotees here in my house yesterday. I had an hour and a half of chanting together, singing, musical instruments, and then hearing a little bit about Prabhupada's interaction with Mahatma Gandhi 80 years ago. And nice prasadam. Devotees prepared things and we made a little offering to Prabhupada. Everyone's well-wisher. It doesn't matter if you're like a direct disciple or you're not a direct disciple. It doesn't matter. Prabhupada, he's empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he's everyone's well-wisher. He's everyone's well-wisher. And he wishes everyone well in their advancement in spiritual life. Everyone. Isn't that the way we all want to be? We want to wish everyone well, don't we? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You want to follow Srila Prabhupada? Learn how to become everyone's well-wisher. You follow Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare. So it's the morning after the night before. And in preparation for the gathering, there were 11 of us adults and one little 2-year-old. So sweet. She wanted to help with everything. She wanted to put cushions out. She wanted to offer prasadam. She wanted to serve prasadam. She wanted to do everything. She played the mridanga. 2 years old. Little sweetheart. Yeah. So I was preparing by cleaning. I scrubbed everything. And we're all day Saturday. I just cleaning. And now, the morning after the gathering, it's not like the house is dirty. The house is even cleaner than it was before everybody got here. How did that happen? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hey, Madhu, Haribo. Thanks for stopping by. Kṛṣṇa. I was just saying, like, today's the morning after the night before, because it was almost, there was a dozen devotees in the house yesterday with chanting, taking prasadam, reading, associating. And I was just saying how miraculously, it's not like the house is dirty now because there's a bunch of people in here making a mess. The house is actually cleaner than it was before they got here. I was just saying, how's that? How's this cleaner? Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. I did find one grape that must have rolled off someone's plate in the corner. I found a grape. But that's it. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. I'm just going to read from Kṛṣṇa book. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa. Yeah, I say wow too. I didn't know what to expect. I was like, okay, Kṛṣṇa. Whatever it is, it is. My mother had a saying. This is what I grew up with, one of my mother's sayings was, always expect the worst and then be pleasantly surprised. So I kind of went into I was expecting the worst, but boy, was I pleasantly surprised. It was very nice. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare. Right in the middle of one of the kirtans, the cuckoo clock went off. It was so perfect, It was like everybody took it the right way. They all started laughing right in the middle of the kirtan. So, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa. I tuned into the new Rukmiṇī temple program. It's online all the time, live online, all the time. The cameras and the microphones in the temple are always online. And I tuned on to their Sunday program and the speaker, what he was speaking about. And he was speaking in the Spirit. He was talking about the Adam and Eve and the apple in the garden in terms of devotion, turning away from devotion, turning away from the Spirit of God. And so it was really nice. And he was making an appeal in his preaching, to pray for being able to enter into the spirit of love of God, enter into the spirit, not just the practice, but the spirit of love of God. It was really, there's a lot going on here in this community, and everyone's feeling it. There's a lot going on. Kṛṣṇa. A lot of icebergs melting. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa. A lot of opening up. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna is the controller. Krishna is in control. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. All right, so let's see what all the commotion is about. What's all the commotion about? What's everyone so worked up over? I mean, what's the big deal? So this is a summary study of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the cream of the Vedic scriptures, the natural commentary of Srila Vyasadeva on his own Vedic scriptures. Krishna. And this is a summary study of that 10th canto by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Everyone's well-wisher. Everyone's well-wisher. Everyone. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is a chapter talks between Krishna and Rukmiṇī. Rukmiṇī's Krishna's chief queen in Dwarka. And these are pastimes on the spiritual plane. They're not material, have nothing to do with birth, death, old age, and disease. This is going on in a whole nother atmosphere, a whole nother creation, actually. The spiritual world. This is the material world, it's a creation. And it's a reflection of the eternal world. Things going on here. Perverted reflection. So these are activities going on in the pure plane, the uncontaminated environment. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna. So much more personal than, a chime or a bell. When every hour you hear cuckoo, cuckoo, it's so much more personal. Time becomes so much more personal. Hare Krishna. In Krishna, Rukmiṇī's mood of service was very submissive. Krishna took many wives, many queens, and she was not at all envious of any of them. And so Krishna wanted to see her get agitated or disturbed. It was like she was too perfect. She was always right there. He wanted to see her get angry or chastise him or something. Do something else. So he spoke very nastily. He was very nasty. He said, I don't really love you. I only married you because I wanted to spite and teach your other suitors a lesson because they don't like me. So I married you to spite them, but I don't actually love you. And why did you marry me anyway? You know, I don't have anything to offer you. You're free to go. You're free to go. Go, you know, take one of those other ones. And speaking to her like that, he expected to see her get angry, but she didn't. She passed out. Just at the thought of not being with Kṛṣṇa, because she was with Kṛṣṇa. There was no break. She was always with Kṛṣṇa, and actually she always is with Kṛṣṇa. She's eternal companion of the Lord. And just the thought of not being with Kṛṣṇa, she passed out. She collapsed. She passed out. Kṛṣṇa realized, this didn't quite go like I thought it was going to go. And he tried to take back all his words and explain what he was doing, and he was trying to take them all back. But what Rukmiṇī does is, she takes all his words as true and turns them around and glorifies Kṛṣṇa with them. It's kind of like when they do some of these military arts, they take the aggression and they don't absorb the aggression, but they learn how to take it, keep it going, its energy, and turn it back around. So she's doing something like that with all the things Kṛṣṇa said, mean things. She's taking them as true and then turning them around and glorifying Kṛṣṇa with them. So she says, this is Rukmiṇī, she says, you have described yourself as penniless, but this condition is not poverty. Since there is nothing in existence but yourself, you do not require to possess anything. You yourself are everything. Unlike others, you do not require to purchase anything extraneously. With you, all contradictory things can be adjusted because you are absolute. You do not possess anything, but no one is richer than you. It's like the verses from Ishopanishad, smaller than the smallest, greater than the greatest, walks but does not walk, is very near and is very far as well, far away as well. Contradictory things are all resolved because Kṛṣṇa is being absolute. They're adjusted. They're held in balance. In the material world, no one can be rich without possessing. Since your lordship is absolute, you can adjust the contradiction of possessing nothing, but at the same time being the richest. In the Vedas, it is said that although you have no material hands and legs, Prabhupada was like that. Pure devotee, ambassador of Kṛṣṇa. He possessed nothing personally, and yet he owned he owned all the temples, he owned all the finances, the economics that was running everything. He had thousands of servants, but he personally owned nothing. He didn't own anything. So we see that the absolute nature of Prabhupada's field of activities, like Kṛṣṇa, he owned nothing. He possessed nothing, but he owned everything for Kṛṣṇa. You have no material hands and legs. You accept everything which is offered in devotion by the devotees. You have no material eyes and ears, but still you can see everything, everywhere. and you can hear everything everywhere. Kṛṣṇa. So the spiritual master is the external manifestation of Supersoul. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa. And he has these attributes to one degree or another. In other words, why would a devotee or a disciple or a follower of Srila Prabhupada prepare something, some food, and place it before his picture and make an offering? Why would he do that if Prabhupada was not able to accept the offering through his picture? Or his murti, little deity. Why would they make an offering like that if he couldn't accept? Hey, Hare Kṛṣṇa. Jocelyn from the Philippines. Hare Kṛṣṇa. So Rukmiṇī's taking Krishna's words that were really harsh. She's taking them and turning them around to glorify Krishna with them. Jujitsu. Although you do not possess anything, the great demigods who accept prayers and worship from others come and worship you to solicit your mercy. How can you be categorized among the poor? As Krishna said, I'm a pauper. Why did you choose me? Why are you attracted? I don't own anything. And Rukmiṇī's saying, yeah, you don't own everything because you are everything. You don't have to own everything. You are everything. Now she takes another one of his aggressive statements and says, my dear Lord, you have also stated that the richest section of human society does not worship you. This is also correct, because persons who are puffed up with material possessions think of utilizing their property for sense gratification. In other words, Kṛṣṇa said, the richest people don't care about me. He was saying it as if it was a disqualification for him, that rich people aren't interested in him. So why would Rukmiṇī be interested in him? Wealthy, successful people in the material world aren't interested in him. He was using it as a way to say how he was somehow less than whatever. But she turns it around and she says, they're puffed up with material possessions, thinking of utilizing their property for sense gratification. When a poverty-stricken man becomes rich, he makes a program for sense gratification. This is due to his ignorance of how to utilize his hard-earned money. Under the spell of the external energy, he thinks that his money is properly employed for sense gratification. And thus he neglects to render transcendental service. My dear Lord, you have stated that persons who possess nothing are very dear to you, renouncing everything. Your devotee wants to possess you only. I see, therefore, that a great sage like Narada Muni, who does not possess any material property, is still very dear to you. And such persons do not care for anything but your lordship. She takes another statement that he made. He says, my dear Lord, you have stated that a marriage between persons equal in statuses of social standing, beauty, riches, strength, influence, and renunciation can be a suitable match. But this status of life can only be possible by your grace. You are the supreme perfectional source of all opulences. Whatever opulent status of life one may have is all derived from you. As described in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadhyasya, you are the supreme source from which everything emanates, the reservoir of all pleasures. Therefore, persons who are endowed with knowledge desire only to achieve you, and nothing else. Okay, I'm trying to see what she's doing here with that statement, because Kṛṣṇa said that he's saying that his match with Rukmiṇī is not suitable because she's much more qualified with social standing, beauty, riches, strength and influence, and renunciation. She has all those opulences, and so the match between her and him is not suitable, because marriages should only be between equals. That's how it works. If they're equal standing on those in those ways, then it's harmonious union. But she's saying, but you're the source of it all. You're the source of all beauty, riches, strength, fame, influence, renunciation. You're the source of all of that. Therefore, persons who are endowed with knowledge desire only to achieve you and nothing else. In other words, if you have Kṛṣṇa, you're going to have all that other stuff anyway. No separate endeavor needed. To achieve your favor, they give up everything, even the transcendental realization of Brahman. You are the supreme ultimate goal of life. You are the reservoir of all interests of the living entities. Those who are actually well-motivated desire only you. And for this reason, they give up everything to attain success. They therefore deserve to be associated with you. Because they give up everything, they deserve to be associated with you. They gave up everything to achieve you. Therefore, they deserve to be associated with you. In the society of the servitors and served in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, one is not subjected to the pains and pleasures of material society, which functions according to sex attraction. That's the biggie. That's what makes the world go around. And that's how everybody got here anyway, at Kṛṣṇa. And that's what keeps everyone here at Kṛṣṇa, the material world. I'm going to read that again. In the society of the servitors and served in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, one is not subjected to the pains and pleasures of material society. In other words, this material sex attraction is conspicuous by its absence. It's just not there. And I remember Prabhupada saying that one can tell how much advancement they're making in Kṛṣṇa consciousness by giving a little self-assessment in how much they're losing this attraction to this material sex pleasure. No. Krishna. One is not subjected to the pains and pleasures of material society, which functions according to sex attraction. Now in the Gita, Prabhupada, Kṛṣṇa says that he is sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. This is not some big artificial heavy-duty denial program. There's provision according to religious principles. But if someone wants to live a renounced life, and that is what is helpful in their Krishna consciousness, then there's provision for that also. The main thing is Krishna consciousness. And he says, which functions according to, he doesn't say sex, just stops it there, like sex is some horrible bad thing. No, he says which functions according to sex attraction. So when sex attraction is stronger than Krishna attraction, that's where the problem is. That's the root of the problem. Sex attraction being stronger than Krishna attraction. Therefore, chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Therefore, everyone, this is Rukmiṇī continuing now, she says, therefore everyone, man or woman, should seek to be an associate in your society of servitors and served. Shelter! Shelter there in the society of the devotees, servitors and served. Devotional service begins with hearing and chanting. And the association of devotees, hearing and chanting. And if that's all anyone ever does, that's fine. That's fine. Hare Krishna. Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna. The material energy pulls one away, and the taste becomes stronger for the material activities. The big one, the sex thing, that pulls one away from a taste and attraction for Krishna. It pulls away. We don't want that to happen. No, 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 no. Why? We've been there, we've done that. It's, yeah. This is where it's at. Krishna. This is the reservoir of pleasure. Krishna. That's the reservoir of pain and suffering eventually. What is it in the Gita? When in the beginning, it says very passionate things. In the beginning, it seems like nectar. But in the end, it's miserable. It's nothing but suffering. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Trikamaya. Rukmiṇī continues. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one can excel you. Nor can anyone come up to an equal level with you. The perfect social system is that in which you remain in the center, being served as the Supreme, and all others engage as your servitors. In such a perfectly constructed society, everyone can remain eternally happy and blissful. So that was her response to marriage between equals. Hare Krishna. She takes another statement that the Lord made. My Lord, you have stated that only the beggars praise your glories. And that is also perfectly correct. But who are those beggars? Those beggars are exalted devotees, liberated personalities, and those in the renounced order of life. They are all great souls and devotees who have no other business than to glorify you. Such great souls forgive even the worst offender. these so-called beggars execute their spiritual advancement of life, tolerating all kinds of tribulations in the material world. My dear husband, do not think that out of my inexperience I accepted you as my husband. Actually, I followed all these great souls. I followed the path of these great beggars and decided to surrender my life unto your lotus feet. Yeah, we don't approach the Lord directly. It's through the mercy of the devotees of the Lord. It's dasa dasa anudas. It's servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant, a million times removed. That's the devotional position. Dasa dasa anudas. Servant of the 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 Hare Krishna. Yeah. So Rukmiṇī is glorifying that path here. I followed all those great souls, those great beggars, those great devotees, as their servant. I followed the path of these great beggars and decided to surrender my life unto your lotus feet, which is interesting because she's the goddess of fortune. They're beggars, and she's following them. They have nothing, and she's a manifestation of the goddess of fortune. I have to think about that one a little bit, how that works. It's like a devotee's not interested in, they only want Krishna. It's like a devotee's not interested in liberation even. They don't even care about liberation. So these great souls, these great realized transcendental personalities who have nothing, don't want anything except Krishna, she's following them. They could have that in a second, but they don't want. They just want Krishna. Just like they could have liberation in a second, but they don't want it. They just want Krishna. Because if they have Krishna, then they have everything anyway. They just want Krishna. I guess that's the point here. Everyone just wants Krishna. Even the goddess of fortune just wants Krishna. Oh, what's so great about Krishna? Well, let's read on. We'll find out. Okay, here's another statement. You have said that you are penniless, and that is correct. You distribute yourself completely to these great souls and devotees. Knowing this fact perfectly well, I rejected even great personalities like Lord Brahma and King Indra. My Lord, the great time factor acts under your direction only. Okay, so she didn't go to live with them. Like when Sudam Vipra came to visit Krishna, he was very, very poor. He's one of these personalities that she's glorifying here, Sudam Vipra. He had those same qualities. Renounced as a Brahmin, great soul, personal friend of Krishna. And under his wife, they were so poor they didn't even have anything to eat. They were very skinny. She said, look, you're living like a householder and this is not working. If we live like householders, we have to have the basic necessities. You're a devotee of Krishna. Approach Krishna. He's your friend. He'll give you what we need to live. He was hesitant to approach Krishna to ask for anything, but his wife, he took it as an opportunity to visit Krishna. He didn't want to ask for anything. So he took what he had, just a little little satchel full of some chipped rice. It was the best he could bring as an offering. And he entered Dwarka. And it was Rukmiṇī herself who was offering the chamra fan. She was offering the chamra fan. And Kṛṣṇa seated Sudamvipra on his own bedstead and washed his feet. And Rukmiṇī was fanning him. And Rukmiṇī pleaded with Kṛṣṇa. Oh, Kṛṣṇa, then he said, what have you brought for me, my old friend, my dear friend, what have you brought? And he had the chipped rice. And Kṛṣṇa took a little grain. He ate the chipped rice. And then he was going to take another little grain. And Rukmiṇī said, no, don't. Don't take any more. Because you've already, by accepting his offering, he's already achieved all the opulences that I can give. He's already achieved all that. And if you take another morsel, I'll personally have to go and live with him. And I can't do that. I want to stay with you. I can't go live with him. Sure enough, when he returned home, he didn't recognize the place. It was a palace. It was gorgeous. He didn't even ask Kṛṣṇa for anything. But Kṛṣṇa, understanding the situation and Sudamvipra's pure love for him, he just gave him all kinds of opulence anyway, knowing that it wouldn't divert his mind. He would remain either poor or with facilities. It's not going to divert his mind. He's surrendered to Kṛṣṇa. Whether he has stuff or he doesn't, it doesn't matter. It's whatever he has, he's going to use for Kṛṣṇa. So when he went home, he had all opulences, and then his wife was happy. So here, it's interesting, she's saying, Rukmiṇī, this is the same Rukmiṇī who said, no, don't take any more. I'll have to go and live with him if you take any more of his rice. She's saying, you distribute yourself completely to the great souls and devotees. Knowing this fact perfectly well, I rejected even such personalities as Lord Brahma and King Indra. Which means, it's not that they don't have opulence, they do, but she wasn't going to go and live with them personally. They can have the stuff, no problem, but her personally, she's not leaving Kṛṣṇa. No way. No way, Jose. She's not going to go stay with them personally like she's with Kṛṣṇa. So she says, I rejected even great personalities like Lord Brahma and King Indra. The great time factor acts under your direction only. The time factor is so great and powerful that within moments it can effect devastation anywhere within the creation. Considering all these factors, I thought Jarasandha, Shishupal, and similar other princes who wanted to marry me to be no more than an ordinary insects, because they were under the power or control of time. Whatever they had, whatever power or opulence or physical strength or beauty, whatever, it was, you know how they have that term, timed depreciation? Like you buy a new car, well, there's timed depreciation in it. It'll last for only so many years. So they had timed depreciation. She didn't want that. Now here comes another statement that Kṛṣṇa said. She's going to turn that around. My dear all-powerful son of Vasudeva, your statement that you have taken shelter within the water of the ocean, being afraid of all the great princes, is quite suitable. But my experience with you contradicts this. I have actually seen that you kidnapped me forcibly in the presence of all these princesses. Not princess, princes. You kidnapped me forcibly in the presence of all these princes. At the time of my marriage ceremony, simply by giving a jerk to the string of your bow, you very easily drove the others away and kindly gave me shelter at your lotus feet. I still remember vividly that you kidnapped me in the same way as a lion forcibly takes his share of hunted booty, driving away all other small animals within the twinkling of an eye. By giving a jerk to the string of your bow, like a twang. The twang of his bow only scattered them. What sound that must have made? Must have made a very powerful sound. When he twanged his bow, they all scattered and ran away. Like a lion's roar. They all scattered. So she's not buying it when Kṛṣṇa says he built a fort in the middle of the ocean because he was afraid of being attacked by all these kings. She's not buying that. Sorry, not buying that. When all you did was twang your bow and they all ran away, not buying it. Sorry. She's not letting Kṛṣṇa get away with anything here. Now, she takes another of his statement. My dear lotus-eyed Lord, I cannot understand your statement that women and other persons who have taken shelter under your lotus feet pass their days only in bereavement. From the history of the world, we can see that princes like Anga, Prithu, Bharat, Yayati, and Gaya were all great emperors of the world, and there were no competitors to their exalted positions. But in order to achieve the favor of your lotus feet, they renounced their exalted positions and entered into the forest to practice penance and austerities. When they voluntarily accepted such a position, accepting your lotus feet as all in all, does it mean that they were in lamentation and bereavement? So we know that in Vrindavan, the gopis and the cowherd boys and everyone in Vrindavan actually, when Kṛṣṇa turned his focus to Dwarka pastimes and left everyone in the mood of separation and bereavement, which would support his statement to Rukmiṇī that women and other persons who have taken shelter pass their days in bereavement, which would indicate Vrindavan. Rukmiṇī turns it around to look at other personalities. She doesn't look at Vrindavan. She looks at other personalities like the great kings, who are all exalted devotees who voluntarily entered the forest. Were they in lamentation and bereavement? They were entering into ecstatic devotional relationship with Krishna. So she turns that around. She doesn't let him do that to her because she can't go there. She can't even consider for a moment that Krishna would leave her. She can't. There's no way. No way she can do that. For one thing, her relationship with Krishna is with Narayan, Lakshmi Narayan. He's Vishnu. She's in relationship with the Vishnu form. She's not in relationship with the Vrindavan form, the two-armed Krishna with the flute. Her relationship is with Vishnu, Narayan, Lakshmi Narayan, is actually a four-armed form, who gives shelter to all living entities. He's the resting place of all living entities, Narayan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna. So she can't for even one moment consider separation from Krishna. She cannot. And he tried that with her, and she collapsed. So when he says that, about bereavement and lamentation, she's not going to go there again. She takes it another way. She says, well, what about, she doesn't want to go there. What about Anga and Prithu and Bharat and Yayati and Gayan? They were all great personalities. And they entered the forest in meditation on you. Were they in meditation and bereavement? She's not going to go there. Sorry. We're not going there again. I can't do it. I refuse. It's not my relationship with you, Krishna, in your Vishnu form. Okay, so she dealt with that one. Now, here we go. Another statement of Krishna. My dear Lord, you have advised me that I can still select another from the princely order and divorce myself of your companionship. But, my dear Lord, it is perfectly well known to me that you are the reservoir of all good qualities. Great saintly persons like Narada Muni are always engaged simply in glorifying your transcendental characteristics. If someone simply takes shelter of such a saintly person, he immediately becomes freed from all material contamination. And becoming in direct contact with your service, the goddess of fortune agrees to bestow all her blessings. Under the circumstances, what woman who has once heard of your glories from authoritative sources and somehow or other has tasted the nectarine flavor of your lotus feet can be foolish enough to agree to marry someone of this material world, who is always afraid of death, disease, old age, and rebirth? So again, she's pointing to the devotees. She's actually taking shelter of the devotees in approaching Krishna. As amazing as that is, since she's Krishna's eternal companion, she's glorifying the devotees. She's glorifying Narada Muni, who's always engaged. And she says, if someone simply takes shelter of such a saintly person, immediately becomes free from contamination. And by coming in direct contact with your service, the goddess of fortune agrees to bestow her blessings. She is the goddess of fortune. It's interesting that she's referring to herself in the third person. Interesting. Under the circumstances, what woman who has once heard of your glories from authoritative sources like Narada, and somehow or other has tasted the nectar and flavor of your lotus feet, can be foolish enough to agree to marry someone of this material world who's always afraid of death, disease, old age, and rebirth? I have therefore accepted your lotus feet. Krishna, he's playing with his wives as if he's an ordinary person. And here Rukmiṇī is playing back with him as if she's an ordinary woman. So she's talking about the goddess of fortune in the third person. But she is the goddess of fortune. And Krishna's talking about himself as if he's a mundane person with no money and nothing to his credit. But he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they're going back and forth like this. They're really having a good time with it. So she's speaking as an ordinary woman that what woman, now she's talking as an ordinary woman, who has once heard of your glories from authoritative sources and somehow or other has tasted the nectarine flavor of your lotus feet, can be foolish enough to agree to marry someone of this material world who is always afraid of death, disease, old age, and rebirth. I have therefore accepted your lotus feet, not without consideration, but after mature and deliberate decision. My dear Lord, you are the master of the three worlds. You can fulfill all the desires of all your devotees in this world and the next, because you are the Supreme Soul of everyone. I have therefore selected you as my husband, considering you to be the only fit personality. You may throw me in any species of life. I sound like an ordinary person. She's a goddess of fortune. See? You may throw me in any species of life according to the reaction of my fruitive activities. And I haven't the least concern for this. My only ambition is that I may always remain fast to your lotus feet, because you can deliver your devotees from the illusory material existence and are always prepared to distribute yourself to your devotees. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Pastimes, Krishna's pastimes. Hare Kṛṣṇa. I don't know, it's a big long paragraph here. This is a long chapter. Well, I'm almost at the end of it, but she has quite a bit more to say. I think I'll stop here. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa. We got some stuff to do today. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa. Talks between Kṛṣṇa and Rukmiṇī. A lot of fun. Kṛṣṇa playing like an ordinary human being, and then Rukmiṇī responding as best she can at times, because for her to even consider for even one moment to be separated from Kṛṣṇa, she can't do that. She just can't do it. Whereas the residents of Vrindavan, because they were absorbed completely, they did not consider Kṛṣṇa to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He could leave them like an ordinary person would leave other ordinary persons. He could do that with them and plunge them into most intense moods of separation. He could do that with them because they didn't consider him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They considered him to be an unusual person. But in his pastimes of opulence and awe and reverence, where his devotees are fully conscious of him being God, he can't do that with them. They can't for a moment be separated. Just the thought of it, it's inconceivable, because that's not their relationship with Kṛṣṇa. But here, Rukmiṇī's doing it a little bit. She's able to do it a little bit to try and play with Kṛṣṇa a little bit. There's not much room in there to get plunged into the, because she just collapses. She's gone. So, Hare Kṛṣṇa. Oh, Chaitanya, Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa.